So now let's see if buying comic books from a certain era really pays off. Hey there, today I have an unboxing video, and in this video I'm going to open up an order of comic books that I placed with Mile High Comics. And this order was placed right when I was on this kick for ordering certain comic books with a very specific cover price or from a very precise era or a piece of the era. And that era is early 70s Bronze Age Marvel Comics. And even some of those Marvel comics that are not the typical mainstream superhero books. And my whole philosophy and thought around this is to invest into the age or the era of the books. And I think I've had a few successful orders where I have found some real gems and some very, very nice potential in some of these comic books. And I'll be honest, this order has me a little concerned. I do feel like when I get on this kick or when I'm into a very specific theme or I feel like I've really got this great idea, what ends up happening is I will, almost like a bell curve, I'll kind of maybe very carefully get into something and then I kind of go all out, and then usually I either sort of fade off of it or it's almost like too much of a good thing and I end up overbuying or maybe wearing out the idea or the concept. And this is what this order feels like for sure. So I do want to get to the unpacking of this order and show you some of these books that I picked up, because I am very curious to compare what I paid for these books from Mile High against the fair market values, yes. But I'm also, now that I have maybe an additional resource or two for where I can find books that are of this age, and I might even argue with my recent experience, could say that even the condition of the books are close. I had always felt like it was worth buying from Mile High Comics, even though there was that shock of sticker price in some cases, but the fact that there's free shipping and that for the most part I am getting books that are in high grade as described or had the ability to press up into what I would consider to be actual near mint. But now that I have some alternate resources that are of a similar quality, I'm definitely looking at some of these, I don't want to say riskier books a little bit differently, but to me, if you're going to invest in something like an Amazing Spider-Man book from like the mid 70s and you're going to spend $40 on a raw book and you think it's high grade, and it may not be a key, but it's got some potential, like that book's always going to have value. It's always going to be strong. You get that slabbed in a 9 or a 9.2 or above, and at worst case, you're getting your money back after you pay for the grading. But you could argue maybe that's a $100 slab in some cases, depending on the specific issue. But there are a lot of those superhero mainstream titles that they're just kind of the bread and butter of comic book collecting. These books that I ordered are a little bit sort of off center, I would say, that they're not really books that, you are regularly looking for as a collector. You're aware they exist, you have the comic book knowledge and expertise, but just not something that you're regularly hunting. And I think that's where I talk about patience, but there's also like an additional level or layer of patience there, where these books, the gamble here is around the condition and value against the era and having the era itself hold up over time, which I do believe in. But in terms of where I'm acquiring these books, and you'll see right away some of the titles that I'm talking about, those non-superhero titles, the non-mainstream, really, really well-known titles and characters, I feel like even though I would consider those books to be rare in a sense, they're more common than you think because the demand on them is so low, especially raw books. I think the demand is there if they're slabbed, professionally graded in a high grade. I think then you're like, well, I don't know much about this book, but it's a book from 1972 published by Marvel Comics in a 9.6. So I'm interested. And that's the general concept here, is to raise the interest of high grade books from the era. But comparing the values against what I'm paying for Mile High Comics right now is what I'm trying to work through. So let's work through this together. Let me unpack this order. I'll show you the books. Maybe we'll grade a couple. And then stay to the end, and I will show you what I paid for the books. And also compare those values if I were to get these books graded, and what if they did pop in high grade. So let's get to the unboxing. All right, here is that order from Mile High Comics. This was an order I placed at the end of November 2022. So let's go ahead and open up this FedEx envelope. You always have the option to choose USPS or FedEx. I always choose FedEx. There's no additional cost. Once you order $60 or more from Mile High, it's free shipping. So I never ever place an order with Mile High below $60 because I love getting that free FedEx shipping. They do a great job. So let's go ahead and open this up. Okay, there was the unpacking of the order. They are the best. It's a very, very simple formula, but if everybody followed them, we'd probably all get our books in great condition shipped to us. Very simple bubble wrap layer. They use like a U-line mailer. Gemini mailer would be just fine. And they take that bag and they tape the bag. Real easy to get the tape off the bag. Super, super easy. I honestly think that the money I spend on some of these orders, sometimes it gets a little out of hand, but the experience of like never ever, knock on wood, have never received an order damaged in transit from Mile High. So it's just continues to be a great experience. So let's see if the books and the actual conditions of them hold up. Let's start off with the first one, and this is Marvel Triple Action number 12. So again, I did say non-superhero, and obviously this is a superhero title, but I think what I meant was, your superhero titled or superhero team titled. This is Marvel Triple Action, which is kind of like a special edition where it's a collection of maybe one-off stories and things like that. So the point here was, let me try and find Marvel Comics with that 20-cent cover price and see if I can build an order of just those or mostly those. But find books that are more affordable, that still have some great potential if found to be in a 9.8. And again, another theory, or I guess part of the theory is, if maybe these are a little off of my radar, could they also be off of Mile High Comics' radar, where maybe this book was graded a long time ago and the grading standards had changed and this is just sitting in a bin marked near mint, but maybe it could be in more that 9.6 or even a 9.8 candidate. So there's a lot of gambling or guesswork that was happening with this particular order. But again, thinking about, can I buy into the era and add value to my collection based on the era and maybe not specifically based on the key or the character or the title. Okay, next book. This was another series that I started to grab with my last order from Mile High. This is Kull the Conqueror number 10. This is really, really badly miswrapped. Reference to Doctor Doom, I assume, right there. But along the lines of Conan the Barbarian and other adventure type of comics of this era, I wanted to take a chance at this one. The miswrapping, hopefully it helps preserve the condition, but I can already see, even through the bag here, that we're going to be dealing with some non-color breaking because everything here is in the white border, but there are several spine ticks on this one. The Marvel Triple Action looked to be a little bit better, but this is pretty good everywhere else, I would say, condition-wise. And I got a few of the Kull books. This is Kull the Conqueror number 9. Again, I feel like if I hid the title like that and just kind of had a general cover, you'd probably think, oh, it's a Conan book. Could maybe lean Thor, Hercules, something around there. Maybe, possibly, maybe even Avengers, not sure, but it says Kull, so it's not as desirable or interesting. And again, that's kind of what I was going for when I was picking these up. And then the last of this bunch, Kull number 7. Again, suffering from a slight miswrap, but condition-wise, looks to be really, really nice. So any other, like again, going back to my Amazing Spider-Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four, or any Marvel title, you name it, that was in this kind of shape and high condition from the same year and be sitting on a little gold mine. Just kind of showing you the, all around this book. This one looks to be pretty good. I'm going to pop this one out of the bag real quick just so I can see it, because this does look to be one of the better books so far out of the order. And as soon as I do, that's really out of the bag. You can start to pick up the non-color breaking ticks like right in there. So they don't break color, which is nice, so that when you take it back out of the light. And I had heard a while ago a grading tip that, you're scrutinizing the book under the light and everything, and you think, well, CGC or any company is going to see that and grade it harshly. And it's not necessarily true. They do take a look at it just with a set of human eyes, and if those sorts of tiny defects are not detracting from the overall quality, they're not graded as harshly as we think. I see these grades, or I see these defects here, like right there next to the character box, and I immediately think, oh, well, we're talking 9.6, 9.4. Not always the case. I mean, this could sneak in as a 9.6. I do believe it's probably a 9.4. I wouldn't let myself accept that, but pretty good. Again, very typical, just slightly dirty. Might need like one pass of dry cleaning through here, and then maybe one quick press just to kind of smooth everything out. Maybe some humidity near the spine just to get these out, or even some tack iron work. So it does need a little bit of love to bring it up, but I'm not seeing anything that would keep this from getting a 9.8. Nothing is torn. All the pages, they seem to be very, very normal, typical, and intact. Probably off-white to white at worst, but, could definitely pass for a white page grade as well on the paper color. But probably just one quick pass, one press, and this could be a 9.8 candidate. It's not now. If I were to grade it, probably 9.2. It's probably that's the Midtown near mint, like the highest grade. Not that you would necessarily get raw from them, but I would say that's the most typical 9 to 9.2. But again, unless I'm being like super harsh, there's literally nothing that's breaking color on this book at all. So I don't know why I would give it anything below a 9. There are no page tears and so on. So I would just leave it as a 9.2. And I would probably go ahead and give it a clean indicator as well, because I do think one very brief and basic dry or wet cleaning pass should suffice on a book like this. So in the corner, I'll go ahead and write the grade on the back of the board and mark it CP. So a 9.2 CP. And I do feel, just because there aren't any of those little sneaky hidden tears or anything, that this could be a 9.8 candidate. Some of the books that I got from Hip Comic around the same era, what I noticed is there were a couple of books that had a very, very tiny page tear, which I had to look up and see, do those page tears really, really detract from the grade? How much does it really bring it down? And I was doing some research and read that if you do have a minor page tear on the front or back cover and everything else is, they say pristine, but if everything else sort of checks out as you would say maybe a 9.6 or a 9.8 candidate, you still can get a 9.2, maybe a 9 on those types of books, but no page tears, fresh bag and board. That's a beautiful book, especially with the light blue in the background. That's Kull the Conqueror number 7. I ended up grading 9.2 and definitely would give it a clean impress and take a chance. All right, every now and then you get a comic without a backing board, which is always fun. This is not a Bronze Age book. This is Amazing Spider-Man 374. I've always loved this Mark Bagley cover. Great centering and layout of Venom right here. And he's got Peter Parker's parents here all wrapped up in his symbiote-ness. And if you're an early Venom collector, not like this is close to his first appearance in 299, but it's definitely like when Venom really, really gets rolling, his Lethal Protector series is coming out and everything, and he's really starting to become a character. It's not an early Venom appearance, but It is where he kind of, it was like he was so popular that they just had to keep bringing him back into Amazing Spider-Man and having Peter Parker deal with him. This one I pick up every so often because it's cheap and it's tough with the all white. This is usually very, very dirty. And I had it as a good price. When I was, one thing I do when I look at Mile High Comics and I'm ordering books is I'm certainly looking for specific titles, eras, and all of those things. But I also have a list that tells me the best deals from Mile High. And if I spot something, like I may say, show me the best value picks from Mile High that are less than $20 or something like that, and see if I can kind of get a filler in. I'm ordering the books anyway; they're coming free shipping, so that was just why I decided to add that one. But I do want to get ASM 374 slabbed. I have 375, and I'd like to. I really, really do like the cover on 374, and it's not dealing with all the foil nonsense or goodness of 375, and would love to kind of display them as a set. All right, the next book here, back to the Bronze Age, turning back the clock, is Creatures on the Loose number 28, and this is featuring Thongor. And I don't know much about him. I do believe he's the god of thongs. I think that's what it said on the Wikipedia site, which is amazing if you're kind of overseeing all the thongs and having to kind of make all of these decisions and everything around your thong army. Just an amazing type of power and responsibility for a character like that. Same story and explanation, honestly, with each of these books, so I don't want to repeat myself, but just if you're doing that and looking at the book, maybe it's some crazy X-Men adventure where is that Magneto back there? I don't know. But you put Thongor and Creatures on the Loose at the top, and you're like, hard pass for me. But a dynamic cover. We do have some darker elements in the back that does typically make it a tougher book to grade. I can see a little bit of creasing here. Get some of that in the light right there. So that would have to be dealt with. But spine looks pretty good. There is this color break there. So that could be what takes it up to a 9.6 max on this one. But, again, strong copy. Love the age, love the era. Keeping it going, this is Tomb of Dracula, number 52. Not a 20-cent cover, obviously 30 cents. But love this one because we've got Dracula on a roller coaster, which, I mean, if you love roller coasters and you love vampires, then this is probably your favorite book ever. And Tomb of Dracula is one of those where I don't have any of the keys, so I'm just collecting all of the non-keys and building up a nice set and run of Tomb of Dracula books. And so far, I think I've gotten all of my Tomb of Draculas from Mile High Comics, and all of them have been, right around that 9 to 9.2, with the ability to improve with a clean and press. I am seeing some tiny color breaks. There's one right there. So this could maybe drop itself into the 9 or 8.5. Here's another. So this is part of the hit and miss with the condition. You will get, I ordered 10 books in this order. One or two of them will be probably graded as is a 9.4. One or two of them will probably drop under 9 into the somewhere between a 7.5 and an 8.5 as is, regardless of whether or not those could be improved with a press. And it's just kind of the way that I've been experiencing buying Mile High Comics, buying from Mile High Comics over the last few years. And that's why I don't typically just buy one book and hope for the best. Is you have to buy 6, 8, maybe 10 books, and then you end up getting some of those gems. So just again, continuing my run of Tomb of Dracula, and just thought this cover was awesome because here they are on Cyclone, out for a ride. Next up in the same theme here is Mighty Marvel Western number 26. I really hope I'm not getting into Western comics because I don't know anything about them at all. I feel like it's just a matter of time before I start buying Golden Age books, and I'm really trying not to. Honestly, again, it was around finding high-grade comics of the era. Don't need to keep repeating it. 20-cent cover, have kind of the nice blocked-off trade which is also kind of a hallmark of this era, this sort of cover style. I believe the cover here by John Severin, a legendary and classical comic book artist. Yeah, and look at that. He took out the snake with his laser. So this must be like a futuristic Western where they're shooting lasers at each other. But very, very cool. Love that checkerboard cross-hatched pair of pants. That's awesome too. So there you go. That's about as much I know of Marvel Westerns, other than great high-grade book at a great price. Okay, last couple here. We have Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos 116. This too has that 20-cent cover. Comic Citizen, who I blame for all of this, he was showing off his Sergeant Fury and Howling Commandos number 100. I think he got it in a CGC 9.6 white pages, and it just looks absolutely stunning and gorgeous. So, of course, I had to have something, and so I get 116. And we've got guys fighting underwater, Dum Dum Dugan crawling around on Mars. Again, I'm just making stuff up because I just don't know. It's just about buying the era and the cover price again. So this one looks to be a little bit better than the last couple. Probably has some non-color breaking ticks that have to be addressed right in there, but not too bad. Again, what's consistent about all of these is that the edges are always super sharp. The corners are very, very good. Really, really nice. I mean, they're slightly miswrapped, yes, but that seems to be the thing, is if the corners are sharp, normal, acceptable, all four are like that, then Mile High just puts this in the near mint pile. Now that one has a little bit of whitening right around there, but still not too bad overall. And then they I think that's how they grade, is they look at the four corners. If the four corners are strong, then they look at the spine, count how many spine ticks, and if there are probably more than 3 or 4 that break color, then it goes into the very fine pile. And then if they're non-color breaking, or they flip it over and there's some dirt, they kind of leave it alone and just call it near mint. But I really, really think that they focus more on the corners, because all the corners on these books are really sharp. The last book is Marvel Superheroes number 40. Now, what's funny is I just picked up the Tales to Astonish, I think it's Tales to Astonish 85. That's the actual book. This reprints that book, but it's still a 20-cent cover. So they were starting to reprint books very quickly. So maybe I get both of these graded and look at them as a set. This one looks a little bit, I would say, below the near mint. I always loved using the wrong bag and board, so this is just falling right off the edge, hanging over, so I'm not really sure how that's protecting anything, but I guess at least it did have a board with it. But the colors in this one are weird. The green is like super, super green. It looks oddly reprinted. Maybe that was done on purpose to let you know that this was a modern reprint, even though it was from the early 70s. I'm not sure what to make of this one, honestly. I like it, but I'm just noticing a few defects here and just kind of disappointed that it's not going to end up even being near mint. That's a pretty rough corner. So probably even with that. And here I said Mile High is marking these all near mint. But this looks like a book that's it was probably sitting around in their warehouse for 20 years and nobody wanted it. And there's probably a reason why. There's a color break there. So a little disappointed in this one. And like I said, that's kind of the law of averages with Mile High Comics. There were a couple in there that I was looking at that was like, well, I don't know condition-wise if that was worth it. Like maybe it was the Tomb and the Marvel Superheroes. These two looked pretty good, kind of as expected. And what's funny is like, which one of these books does not belong with the others? Randomly, I bought an Amazing Spider-Man 374 in the middle of this 20-cent cover, early Bronze Age, early 70s comic book haul from Mile High Comics. But let me show you now what I paid for these books. You can see what I paid for ASM 374 and why I decided to throw that in there. Compare it to the fair market values of these books raw. And then if I were to get these books graded and they did come back in high grade, what other values did I target with this order? And then we can kind of answer the question together, which is the risk of the investment when you're buying books from an era instead of a specific title or character from an era, is there value and is there real potential? Let's find out. All right, here is that order that I placed with Mile High Comics on November 25th, 2022. It was an order for $195.60. Those high-grade old books are not cheap, and when you order a lot of them, it adds up. It was free shipping, as I mentioned, $6 to insure the order. I always pay for the insurance. It's worth it. And then I take that $6 and I distribute it across the cost of all the books in the order, in this case, all 10 books. So it was adding 60 cents to each book. And if my math is correct, then the total cost of all the books should match what I was invoiced, and it does. It checks out. Now, I want to compare the total cost in column Z against the fair market value as reported by Cover Price, either for the book in near mint or the most appropriate grade and its value, whichever is higher. And the reason I choose the higher of the two is because, in my mind, I'm purchasing these books at near mint. I expect them to be around 9.4 by definition. So I'm going to take that fair market value. But if for some reason a lesser graded copy sold for more, because maybe a near mint copy didn't come on the market, then I use that value, but again, assume that the condition is near mint. So I compare the reported fair market value of the books in column U against the cost in column Z, and let's see how it turned out. And I lost money. A loss of $36.60. Not surprising for an order from Mile High Comics. It's not that significant percentage-wise of a loss, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. I realize you're really more investing in the potential of the books, especially if I plan on grading most of them and not so much just taking them raw and turning them right back around. I never intend to purchase books from Mile High and then put them back on eBay. It's just, I have a lot of easier ways to lose money, let's put it that way. No, the purpose of these orders is to identify which books out of this order have pressable defects and get them cleaned up, or which books have the most potential if graded in a 9.8 and try and shoot for that. So not a whole lot of need to go over each book. They're all kind of a loss. Kull the Conqueror 10 cost me $21.80. Fair market value on that book is $27. But these are kind of all over the place. Like Kull 7, Kull 10 is not necessarily a key book. I don't think any of them really are, unless you count Kull number 1. But Kull number 7 is only $13, and I think that one has a lot of potential to be a 9.8 or at least a 9.6. And that's not worth as much as Kull 10. So these, again, for these sorts of books, I feel like the raw values, they're just kind of all over the place. But yeah, anywhere from an $8 loss here, a $13 loss here. But the big winner in the bunch, Amazing Spider-Man 374. Why did I buy it? It was a total cost for me of $6.20. It's a $16 book raw in near mint. So, and this one was helping keep the order afloat, if you will, of almost $10 of a raw value add there. Now, as I said, when I'm buying these books near mint, I assume they're all 9.4 by Mile High standards. I think they say 8.5 and above, but as everyone scolds me all the time, near mint is 9.4, so I put 9.4 in here because why not? And let's see if any of these books have a value in CGC 9.4, and they do not. Kind of a disappointing list of books here where you're like, hey, you want Marvel Triple Action number 12 in a 9.4, you can pretty much just have it. There's no reported value, apparently, for that book in a 9.4. The most valuable here, Tomb of Dracula 52 at $59. Kull the Conqueror number 10, $60. I'm all excited about the condition of Kull 7. It's only $30.50. So if I were to assume that these books were 9.4 and I sent them to CGC, I would, I'm sure it's negative, be disappointed with a $78.48 loss. Again, this is a very creative way to lose money, but I can find easier ways to do it. So this is quite disappointing. And if you're wondering, okay, then still, I don't understand why you're buying these, because they don't have the raw book value. They don't have any sort of graded near mint value. Well, It's because I'm hoping they have value in a 9.8, because then we'll see the potential of this order. So for these 10 books in a 9.8, if I were to get them all graded, I would be adding $714.34. Not all that impressive. It's just not. And it is what it is. The big book in here is that Tomb of Dracula 52. Again, you got Dracula at an amusement park, so I mean, what's not to love? And if you could get that in a 9.8, it's a $375 slab. I don't believe that book is a 9.8. I haven't even really gone through and graded it yet, and I can just kind of tell even through the bag that it's just not a 9.8. Marvel Superheroes 40, that reprint, no value in a 9.8. So I do need to go back and check my numbers just to see why I even bothered with that book. I think it could have just been a query I was running against my numbers that just said, show me 20-cent covers that are the cheapest from Mile High. And I didn't even bother looking to see if they had value. And I think that's probably why I ended up with the Marvel Superheroes and Marvel Triple Action. At least the Marvel Triple Action has a 9.8 value of $90. The Mighty Marvel Western, 75. You know, again, some of these books, I feel like it could just be a timing thing. I'm not exactly sure. I have to really rethink it. But these are the numbers. Not an overwhelming collection of books and values where you're sitting there going, well, this theory is just a home run. This is awesome. It's not as strong as I thought, or I am really reaching for certain books or certain titles where maybe this theory, this working theory of mine, it just doesn't apply to every book. You have to be a little bit more selective, where I'm just sort of trying to throw darts at specific comic book release years, and maybe it's just not working out. I don't know yet. I need to go through this myself. I need to experience this. I need to go through and say, well, maybe I can't just go on Mile High and sort by original cover price and most affordable. Maybe I really need to think about being more selective and thinking about, like, for example, again, that Marvel Triple Action, it cost me $14.60 to acquire that book, with the hope that it's somewhere in the 9 to 9.8 range. But even in that case, the graded values are minimal. It's kind of like a money back situation if you don't hit the 9.8. It would almost be better if I cut out half the books and spent the same amount. So instead of buying a $15 near mint book from that era, target a $30 or $40 book and maybe get into a title like Avengers or Defenders or something like that, and take more of a gamble there, because I feel like the potential would be greater with more of a well-known title. So that was really the experiment, was could I focus on the era and kind of go against what would be more typical or traditional Marvel comics that people know and love, and could I just pick any book? I feel like the answer is you can't. You can't just pick any book from a specific era where there really is no purpose. There's no like specific creative team. There's no specific story, key, or character, but you're really banking on the era. Now, I still believe in my heart, and probably it's going to be hard for me to change my mind on this, but I do feel like as time passes, many of these books were from 1973. So next year they're going to be turning 50 years old. So to have a 50-year-old comic in a 9.2 or 9.4, right? I feel like that's going to have some value as time continues to pass. And I think back to when I was young and I started to get into collecting, and I'm thinking about, what if I had a book from 50 years before that? And it sounds very ancient. And of course, now those books are coming up on 100 years old. So anyway, you could probably work out all that math and figure out how old I am, but I still believe in holding these books long term. I feel like I'm kind of envisioning a larger comic book wall of mine, and having a lot of these books slabbed in the nines and getting that really nostalgic feel. I really feel like there's something there. There's some value there. But clearly the market is not really receptive to this, and I'm still learning and figuring out where is the line drawn where you're kind of you're on the right track, you're on the right path for finding good value, with this type of book, and then it just falls off. Like, it's just not a can't miss sort of proposition when we're looking at these. And I think that this order is a good one to go through as an example of kind of where things drop off. Drop me a comment. I'd love to get your feedback on this order or this strategy, or what your strategy might be if you have something similar. And if you like what I'm doing, you like going over these numbers, you like seeing the analysis of it all, and you like the conversation, would really appreciate your support. If you would like to join this channel as a member, you can click the join button below this video, or go to my channel homepage and sign up for membership, where I do monthly giveaways for members only, and your membership gives you an automatic entry into those monthly giveaways. Thanks for watching, happy collecting, and see you next time.